There are voices that fade with time, and then there are voices that become time itself. Voices that carry emotion so pure, it feels as if the soul of a nation speaks through them. Among those rare voices, one name stands eternal: John Holt. Before reggae became a global rhythm, before the world even understood Jamaica's musical heartbeat, there was a young man from Kingston whose songs would echo through generations. A man whose voice could make the toughest hearts soften, whose melodies defined love, loss, and longing for millions. John Holt was more than a singer. He was the sound of romance, the poet of the people, the velvet tone that transformed reggae into something divine. From humble streets to international stages, his journey was one of grace, genius, and everlasting devotion to music. This is his story. The rise, the passion, the legacy, the unforgettable voice of John Holt. Born on July 11, 1947, in the vibrant heart of Kingston, Jamaica, John Kenneth Holt came into a world filled with rhythm. The island was alive with sound, the cries of street vendors, the laughter of children, the heartbeat of drums echoing through narrow alleys. Jamaica was still young, restless, and full of hope, and in that noise, a voice was quietly being shaped. John's childhood was simple, sometimes hard, but always surrounded by music. His family lived in a modest home, a place of warmth, prayer, and community. Like many in Kingston during the 1950s, they didn't have much, but they had spirit. His parents were hard-working, proud people who taught him humility and kindness, values that would follow him for life. From an early age, John stood out. His mother noticed it first, how her boy would hum tunes that weren't on the radio, melodies of his own creation. At school, teachers spoke of a child with an unusual gift, a soft voice that could quiet an entire classroom. At local events, he'd be asked to sing, often standing nervously in front of neighbors, only to win them over with his tender tone. Music wasn't just a dream for John, it was a lifeline. The young Kingston boy found solace in the harmonies that flowed through the city's sound systems, from mento to early ska. The air itself carried rhythm, and John listened. He listened deeply. To Alton Ellis, to the Skaterlights, to the emerging sound of the island that would soon take over the world. In those early years, talent shows were the gateways to dreams. The famous Veer John's Opportunity Hour became the stage where Jamaica's future stars were born. And one evening, a teenage John Holt walked onto that stage. No fancy clothes, no backing band, just a shy young man with a voice that could melt the room. When he sang, silence fell. Then came thunderous applause. John Holt had arrived. Winning that competition not only gave him confidence, but also opened doors. People began to talk. That boy Holt, he's got something special. He started recording small tracks, performing wherever he could, building his craft and finding his identity as a singer. By his late teens, John was already a rising name. His smooth tone and natural control stood out from the raw, energetic ska style dominating the scene. He was different, soulful, gentle, deeply emotional. Kingston producers began to take notice. And then came a fateful connection, one that would shape not only his life, but also the future of Jamaican music, the Paragons. In the early 1960s, harmony groups were the soul of Jamaica's evolving sound. The island was shifting from the jumpy beat of ska to a slower, richer rhythm called rocksteady. And at the heart of that movement stood the Paragons, a group of young men destined to create timeless classics. John Holt joined the Paragons as their lead vocalist and principal songwriter. Alongside Tyrone Evans, Howard Barrett, and at times the great Bob Andy, they formed a brotherhood of sound, each voice blending like instruments in a symphony of love. Together, they became the poets of the new generation. Their songs weren't just tunes, they were emotions pressed onto vinyl. They sang about love, heartbreak, hope, and life on the island. While others chased excitement and fame, the Paragons chased beauty. John's songwriting was the secret weapon. His pen was pure poetry. He wrote words that felt like whispers from the soul. Simple, sincere, unforgettable. Songs like Only a Smile, On the Beach, Wear You to the Ball, and the eternal The Tide is High. When The Tide is High was first released, it was more than a hit. It was a masterpiece. The song carried a smooth confidence, a rhythm both calming and powerful. Holt's voice soared like the sea breeze itself. Years later, international artists like Blondie and Atomic Kitten would cover it, taking it to global charts, but its heart always belonged to John Holt. In the 1960s, the Paragons recorded at Treasure Isle under the legendary producer Duke Reid, who helped polish their harmonies into perfection. Reid was known for his sharp ear and high standards, and he knew John Holt was a rare gem. He often said, "When John sing, the world listen." The Paragons dominated the Jamaican airwaves. Their melodies floated through Kingston nights. From radios, bars, and passing cars, they gave a soundtrack to love, turning everyday life into music. But as with all great stories, change was inevitable. As the 1960s drew to a close, rocksteady began to evolve into reggae. Members pursued solo ambitions. The Paragons had carved their legacy. And now, John Holt was ready to step into the spotlight alone. The transition wasn't easy. Leaving a successful group meant starting over, but Holt was determined. He knew his voice had more to give, not just to Jamaica, but to the entire world. The late 1960s were a time of transformation for Jamaica, for reggae, and for John Holt. Leaving the Paragons behind, he embarked on a journey that would not only define his life, but also reshape the sound of a generation. John Holt's solo career began quietly but deliberately. He wasn't chasing instant fame. He was crafting something deeper, something timeless. His first recordings were met with curiosity. Fans remembered him as the harmonious voice of the Paragons. But now he was stepping into the world as a solo artist. And the world was ready. Songs like A Love I Can Feel and Alibaba revealed a new dimension of John Holt. His voice was smoother, richer, more intimate. It could whisper and soar, soothe and excite. Every note was precise, every word deliberate. Listeners felt as though he was singing just for them, and in truth, he often was. His collaborations with legendary producers such as Coxsone Dodd and Bunny Lee were pivotal. These men understood John Holt's genius. They nurtured it, guided it, and gave it the space to grow. Under their production, Holt's sound evolved from pure rocksteady into a sophisticated form of reggae, infused with soul, lovers rock, and a subtle sophistication that few could match. By the early 1970s, John Holt was not just a voice. He was an institution. His solo hits like Stealing, Strange Things, and Stick By Me showcased his versatility. He could sing heartbreak, joy, longing, and love, sometimes all within a single song. Fans across Jamaica sang along, feeling each lyric as if it were a personal confession. Yet his ambitions were global. Holt's smooth sound resonated far beyond the island's shores. He toured in London and the UK, where reggae was starting to flourish among Caribbean communities and curious British audiences. Holt's voice transcended cultural boundaries. People who didn't speak English felt the emotion in his music. His songs were not just heard, they were felt in the heart, in the chest, in the soul. In 1973, John Holt released an album that would cement his status as a musical pioneer, 1,000 Volts of Holt. The project was ambitious, revolutionary, and unlike anything reggae audiences had heard before. This wasn't just reggae. This was reggae with soul, orchestral strings, lush arrangements, and a voice that could melt steel. Holt's interpretations of contemporary hits and covers were infused with his own artistry, transforming songs into something unmistakably his own. Tracks like Help Me Make It Through the Night, Never, 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 and Mr. Bojangles became global sensations. The success of 1,000 Volts of Holt proved that reggae could transcend borders. British radio stations played his songs alongside soul and pop classics. European audiences embraced his smooth tones. For the first time, the world realized that reggae wasn't just dance music. It could also be elegant, romantic, and deeply emotional. Holt followed up with 2,000 Volts of Holt and later 3,000 Volts of Holt, each project further expanding his musical range. He demonstrated that he could adapt, innovate, and grow while remaining true to his core sound. It was during this era that John Holt earned the reputation of being a crossover artist before the word even existed. While some reggae singers focused solely on local fame, Holt aimed higher and achieved it. Yet he never abandoned his roots. His songs retained the warmth, rhythm, and soul of Jamaica. Each note carried the essence of Kingston's streets, its markets, its people. Fans from all walks of life fell in love with John Holt. Lovers, rock enthusiasts found solace in his romantic ballads. Reggae purists respected his integrity. International audiences admired his sophistication. He became a bridge between generations, between cultures, between the island and the world. By the late 1970s, John Holt had fully emerged as a global superstar. His music had transcended Jamaica's shores, reaching fans across Europe, North America, and Africa. Yet for all the applause, awards, and chart-topping hits, Holt remained true to one simple truth. Music was a gift meant to touch the hearts of those who listened. Touring became a vital part of his career. He performed in small clubs and massive arenas, often to sold-out crowds. London became a second home. The UK embraced reggae wholeheartedly, and John Holt was at the forefront. Every performance was a masterclass in connection. Holt didn't rely on flashy stage props or elaborate choreography. He needed only his voice, a microphone, and the audience's attention. He could command thousands of people with a subtle shift in tone, a soft vibrato, a pause that spoke louder than words. Fans from all walks of life were united by the simplicity and elegance of his music. Across Europe, his reputation grew. Festivals, concerts, and television appearances introduced new generations to the warmth of his tone. Songs like "The Tide is High" and "Help Me Make It Through the Night" became standards, sung in pubs, homes, and street corners. His influence stretched far beyond the confines of reggae. Artists in pop and soul began studying his phrasing, his control, and the intimacy of his delivery. Recognition for John Holt came naturally, though he never sought the spotlight for its own sake. His artistry was acknowledged formally through awards, honors, and tributes. In Jamaica, he was celebrated not only as a musician, but as a national treasure. He received accolades from the Jamaican government, including distinctions for his contribution to culture and music. International awards followed, celebrating his impact on reggae worldwide. Critics often referred to him as the King of Lovers Rock, a title he earned not through self-promotion, but through consistent brilliance. Yet Holt's greatest recognition came not from trophies or plaques, but from his fans. Across decades, audiences flocked to hear him live, sang along to every lyric, and passed his music to younger generations. In a way, the voice of the people became his highest honor, an eternal crown that no ceremony could replicate. At the peak of his career, John Holt accumulated significant wealth. Not the ostentatious kind of fame seen in Hollywood, but the quiet kind that comes from talent, dedication, and consistent artistry. His net worth, generated from record sales, royalties, performances, and international tours, placed him among Jamaica's successful musical icons. Yet he lived modestly, with elegance and discretion. Holt preferred comfort over excess and substance over flash. He had homes in Kingston and the UK, spaces filled with warmth rather than extravagance. Family, music, and culture were the center of his life. He drove with dignity, dressed with style, and carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who knew his value was in his art, not in material possessions. Behind the global superstar was a man of deep emotion, loyalty, and integrity. John Holt cherished his family, his parents, his siblings, his spouse, and his children. For him, family was the sanctuary that grounded him amidst the chaos of fame. He was a loving father, a devoted husband, and a protective figure for those close to him. While his public persona exuded calm sophistication, those who knew him personally spoke of warmth, humor, and humility. He was the kind of man who could enter a room silently, yet leave it brighter simply through presence. Music and family intertwined. Holt often wrote songs inspired by love, commitment, and human connection. He drew from life, from observation, from emotion, never pretending, never exaggerating, never sacrificing truth for commercial appeal. That authenticity became the hallmark of his career and the reason his music endures. John Holt was not a myth, not an untouchable figure. He was a man who navigated life with grace, humility, and relentless dedication to his craft. He faced challenges, as all humans do, the pressures of fame, the demands of the industry, the constant travel and performance schedule. Yet he endured. He thrived. By the 1980s and 1990s, John Holt had firmly secured his place as a global reggae icon. His music continued to resonate with audiences new and old. Reggae's international profile had grown dramatically, and Holt had been at the forefront of that expansion. Fans in London, New York, Paris, and Tokyo came to know his songs as anthems of love and nostalgia. While trends came and went, John Holt's music remained constant, a steady rhythm in a changing world. As the 21st century unfolded, John Holt remained a steadfast presence in the world of reggae. Time passed, trends shifted, yet his voice continued to resonate with undiminished power. Fans still flocked to hear him live, new generations discovered his music, and his songs remained ever relevant. Holt continued performing, touring internationally and locally, always giving audiences his full heart. Even in his later years, he maintained the elegance, grace, and precision that defined his artistry. Audiences marveled at his ability to breathe life into songs decades old, making each performance feel intimate, fresh, and profoundly emotional. Yet, as is the human experience, age and health slowly caught up. The man whose voice had once carried effortlessly across arenas and radio waves began to face the inevitable challenges of time. Despite this, John remained devoted to music. His performances continued, his recordings persisted, and his spirit never wavered. On October 19, 2014, the world lost John Holt. Jamaica, the reggae community, and music lovers worldwide mourned a true legend. Tributes poured in, from fellow musicians, from fans, from journalists, all acknowledging the profound impact of his life and work. The news was met with sorrow, but also with gratitude, for his contributions had touched countless lives, creating memories and emotions that would endure forever. Holt's passing was not merely the loss of a singer, it was the loss of a cultural beacon, a gentle soul who had carried the essence of Jamaica in his music and shared it with the world. Yet, as with all great artists, his death did not silence him. His voice lives on, in recordings, in covers, in samples, and in the hearts of millions who continue to cherish his songs. John Holt's legacy is immense, immeasurable, and eternal. He was a pioneer of lovers' rock, a master of reggae's smooth soul, and a cultural ambassador who carried Jamaica's musical heartbeat to the world. His songs have been covered countless times, adapted across genres, and sampled by artists seeking to capture a fraction of his magic. The Tide Is High alone has traversed decades and continents, sung by artists in pop, rock, and R&B, each time introducing new audiences to Holt's brilliance. Holt's influence is seen in generations of reggae singers who emulate his phrasing, tonal control, and emotional depth. Lovers rock, a genre defined by intimacy and melody, owes much of its foundation to his artistry. Even pop and soul artists cite him as inspiration, a testament to the universality and timelessness of his voice. Beyond music, his life represents integrity, humility, and dedication. He was a man who never allowed fame to overshadow substance, who chose art over excess, and who remained grounded in the culture and values that shaped him. He mentored younger musicians, ensuring that the spirit of reggae would continue to thrive through authenticity and passion. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep reggae documentaries and true artist stories.